Welcome to Caregiving Club On Air. This podcast is dedicated to the millions of family caregivers who want wellness tips and self-care solutions, who seek expert advice, and who want news about healthy aging and how to create well home design in our forever homes. I'm Sherri Snelling, a corporate gerontologist, author, and educator, a TV interviewer, host, and news commentator. I'm joining you from Southern California, where our interviews and news take us all across the country to explore the many ways to help you on your caregiving journey and to lift you up here at Caregiving Club On Air. Welcome to Caregiving Club On Air and our episode on Healthy Aging Month, How to Train Our Bodies and Our Brains, World Gratitude Day, and also Ageless Fashion Week updates. I'm your host, Sherri Snelling, and we have a really packed episode for you today. In honor of September's National Healthy Aging Month, we have two great interviews, one with Henry Mahncke, who is part of the team of Posit Science, who created the brainHQ brain training exercises. He's going to be here to tell us how to train our brains. And then also Mark Evin, who is the founder of Jintronix, which is using gamification to help all ages to move more for health. And then, as I mentioned, we also are going to be honoring Fashion Week, which is happening in New York and Paris this month. And we have a great surprise guest, Cara Sumpton, who is the co-founder of Apparelmark. And she has been a designer with Lululemon and Artesia. And she's also the lead designer for the Joe and Bella adaptive clothing line. Now, as you probably remember, we talked to Jimmy Zola, who was the co-founder of Joe and Bella back in our season 2, episode 9. So if you want to check that out, but Cara is really going to talk to us about this ageless design and what inspired her to create clothing for older adults. And then, of course, it's World Gratitude Day on September 21st. So our Me Time Monday wellness hack at the end of this episode is going to focus on the color orange. Orange is the color that's most associated with gratitude and also other healthy properties. So we'll talk to you about that. And then International Podcast Day is on September 30th. So we want to do a shout out to all of our listeners of these podcasts and say we're grateful for you. That's our Gratitude Day message, but we're really grateful that you join us for these episodes to learn more about caregiving and healthful aging and also wellness. And then in home design news, we're going to focus on Falls Prevention Week, which is coming up also in the middle of September. And we'll tell you some of the ways to help prevent falls of our older loved ones at home. So with that, let's get started with our caregiver wellness news. So for our caregiver wellness news, we're actually going to keep our news segments in this episode a little shorter because we've got 3 really great interviews. But as I mentioned, September 21st is World Gratitude Day. So please check out our Me Time Monday wellness hack at the end of this episode. We're going to talk about how gratitude can make us healthier and happier and what the color orange has to do with those aspects of health and happiness. So check out that wellness hack at the end. And then as I mentioned, we've got coming up after the first couple of interviews with Mark and with Henry, we've got Cara Sumpton, who is the lead designer for Joe and Bella's adaptive clothing line. And also she's, as I mentioned, she's a fashion designer. She's worked for Lululemon and, other great lines that are out there. And we're going to have her tell us about ageless fashion and her inspiration for older adults. And, we thought we'd do this. It's kind of fun. It's Fashion Month, if you will. Fashion Week in New York is actually on while I'm recording this, September 9th through the 13th. And Paris Fashion Week is at the end of the month, September 27th through October 3rd. So it's a great time to have Cara on, really telling us about what fashion and style looks like. Particularly as we are getting older. And, speaking of fashion, I just want to do a shout out because 84-year-old Jane Fonda has collaborated with the H&M fashion retailer to create H&M Move. So as you know, Jane Fonda, very famous back in the 80s for her workout videos. Well, now she's collaborating on a line of athleisure wear with H&M. So you can check that out. And I think that proves right there that fashion is ageless. So now we're going to go into our trio of fantastic interviews. We're going to start with Henry Mahncke, as I mentioned, of Posit Science and brainHQ. He's going to talk to us about how important it is to exercise our brains. And then we're going to move right into our interview with Mark Evin of Jintronix, who created a kind of a really gamification style of exercises that help people both who are older and may have joint pain or are rehabbing, but also for any ages. And we're going to talk a little bit to Mark about that. And then we'll have this wonderful interview with Cara, our fashion designer, at the end. So I am really thrilled to have our next guest, who is Henry Mahncke from Posit Science and brainHQ on. Hi, Henry. Welcome to Caregiving Club on Air.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me on today.
Yeah. And, we've done some of these things together before, being on panels and stuff, but it's exciting to have you talk to our listeners for our podcast. And tell us where we are actually talking to you from today.
I am working from home on the west side of San Francisco, where it has finally cooled down after a short heat wave. So we're enjoying San Francisco weather the way we're supposed to, nice and cool.
Well, have you had any of the rain? I know we're waiting for thunderstorms here in Los Angeles. So
rain is not something we enjoy in Northern California these days, I'm afraid to say. So,
well, as I
rain, send it my way.
That's right, exactly. Well, as I said, I'm thrilled to have you on because you are one of the foremost thought leaders and neuroscientists in our brains and how they work and how we can make them function a lot better. So I want to just get started and have you tell us a little bit about brainHQ, which is, a lot of people talk about brain training or brain games, and you really talk about this as exercise. So tell us about that.
That's exactly right. When we think about, so what is brainHQ? brainHQ is a brain training program. And, it comes out from the research that Posit Science co-founder, Dr. Michael Mahncke's lab did around brain plasticity. And, today's day and age, Sherri, we all know that the brain is plastic. You and I know the brain can change. Your listeners probably know that. But it's important to say that, hey, once upon a time, nobody knew that. If you were to wind back the clock to, let's say, 1970 and ask any neuroscientist, how does the brain work? They all would have said the same thing. Hey, the brain's like a computer chip. It's got wires that carry electricity. It processes information. That's what it is. And we all know that computer chips wear out after a while. And if they get damaged, you can't fix them. And that was everyone's view of the adult brain. The adult brain is hardwired. It wears out when you get old. If you break it, too bad. You're out of luck. And I think the single most exciting thing that came out of Mike Mahncke's, my PhD advisor, the co-founder of Posit Science, what came out of his lab was, hey, that's a terrible idea. Try to never think that again. The brain is, in fact, a constantly adapting biological system. It's rewiring itself at all the time. When you're a baby, when you're a young adult, when you're an older adult, when you're healthy, when you're not so healthy, your brain is always rebuilding itself in response to what you ask it to do. And so the idea for brainHQ came from that. When Mike asked me to join the company, he said, hey, we've helped a lot of rats get better brains. We've helped a lot of monkeys get better brains. Don't you think it's about time to take this science of brain plasticity and help some people get better brains? And that was a pretty good pitch, Sherri, I have to tell you.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
So that's what we did. We took this science of how to rewire the brain to make information processing in the brain faster and more accurate. And we built that into computerized brain training exercises that just about anyone can do to improve their brain function and help them think faster, focus better, and remember more. And, for us, we really draw the line between brain games and brain training in a pretty simple way. There's a million brain games you can open up your phone and look at. Some of them are even fun. But, brain games haven't gone through gold standard randomized controlled trials to show that they work. Does Monopoly improve your memory? Probably not. No one's ever done a trial. Do the brain games on a phone improve your memory? Also probably not. Most of them have never been through a trial. But at brainHQ, we did that hard work with leading academic investigators from all over the country and all over the world to show that these brain training exercises really work. They improve memory and speed and attention. And that's been shown in more than 200 published papers at this point. Very exciting.
Well, it is very exciting. And, Henry, you make a really important distinction, I think. I think a lot of people think about, quote unquote, brain training as, I can, do Sudoku or play a puzzle game or something like that. And you're saying there really is a difference, right? And it really does come down to the specifics of how the brain works and then how you're kind of working out that portion of the brain. So to explain that a little bit to us.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And so, to understand how to build a better brain, we have to first understand, well, hey, what happens in the brain on the average as we get older? And what happens, as it turns out, is the brain gets noisier. It's almost like listening to an old radio that kind of got off the signal a little bit and became staticky. It turns out that as we get older, and I should say, when I say older here, Sherri, the bad news is over about the age of 27.
So I fit in that category.
You and me both, I'm comfortable saying. Our brain actually gets kind of this internal staticky noise, and hey, that actually slows down our brain. It makes memory harder. It makes attention harder. It's harder to think about things, and we all kind of know that that's true. If you've ever been on a noisy bus talking to a friend, it's harder to pay attention to what they're saying. It's harder to remember what they say. It's hard to think about it. Noise hurts cognition, but as we get older, we get noise inside of our brain. But it turns out that what we learned from all those rats and monkeys back in the lab back in the day was, hey, we can eliminate that noise. We can make brain information processing sharp and fast and accurate by training the brain to be fast and accurate. And so that's what we built in these brainHQ exercises, is we train the brain to be fast and accurate in that way. And that's really what leads to the improvements in cognitive function that we see.
Well, and you and I have joked when you talk about neuroplasticity, we were talking about, so that thing that our parents told us when we went to college, don't drink too much because you kill your brain cells and never get them back. Actually, we could get them back, right? We can still work out.
It's great that you mentioned it, because when I was in graduate school, that's what they taught us. I joined the lab at a time where lots of people did not believe the brain could change, except for Mike Mersnick, and certainly nobody believed that no neurons could be born. And I was told exactly that. Every time you have a drink, you're killing a few neurons and they're not coming back. But even that idea has changed. We now know that neurons are born in the adult human brain. In fact, they might be born pretty commonly. We're still trying to figure it out. But so now that we know that neuroplasticity exists, we can think about putting it to work. So how does that make different things different? So you asked about crosswords and Sudoku, right? Or actually a very popular one these days is Words with Friends. Not Words with Friends. That was popular 3 years ago. Wordle is what we're all playing now, right? Right. And so people have asked me all the time, hey, is Wordle a brain training program? Is that going to improve my cognitive function? And the first answer, of course, is, well, no one's ever done a trial, so we don't know. But then the next answer is, hey, probably not, right? If what's causing memory and attention and speed and thinking problems when we get older is that internal noise, and if we know that we can get rid of that noise by training the brain to be faster and more accurate, well, does Wordle train the brain to be faster and more accurate? And the answer is probably no, right? When you do Wordle, you have all the time in the world to think, right?
Right.
Put in the answer, and then you can sit back for an hour and go do something else and come back to it. You're not really training your brain to be fast. You're working in a very, very narrow realm of 5-letter English words, right? Who knows if it's helping you with longer words or anything, one after the other. And so it is keeping your brain busy, exactly like you said, but it's probably not reorganizing your brain to be faster and more accurate in the way that we know that we need to see broader improvements in speed, attention, and memory. And this kind of work was really nicely shown by Tim Salthouse at University of Virginia. He actually looked at lots and lots of people, tens of thousands of people, and asked them, hey, how many crossword puzzles do you do? And gave them a cognitive test. And what he saw was pretty interesting, which is that, hey, people who do crossword puzzles have better cognitive function. So that's exciting and promising, right? Should we all do crossword puzzles? Well, no, because if you look at people who do crossword puzzles compared to people who don't, they're both experiencing cognitive decline at exactly the same rate. So crossword puzzlers are not protective against cognitive decline. It's a selection effect. Hey, smart people like to do crossword puzzles, right? That's why people who do crossword puzzles do better on cognitive tests, but it's not changing their brain in such a way that's maintaining or preventive cognitive decline. To do that, we need to do something different. We need to really get inside and make the brain faster and more accurate.
Well, and I love that you talk about it is different from cognitive decline. I think a lot of us now are getting, more in tune with the fact that our brain has to stay healthy. What are the things we can do? Exercise, nutrition, the traditionals, right? Yeah. But in terms of the types of games, I know that you've got certain exercises. And I shouldn't call them games, exercises. We don't call them games. You've got exercises that can improve things that actually have shown to also help improve things like driving skills in older adults? And I know a lot of our listeners are concerned with parents maybe who are driving and they're older and just maybe their brain's a little bit fuzzier. Or they don't, they're not as quick to respond to things. So give us a sense of what are the types of exercises that brainHQ offers that helps with that.
Yeah, it's a great question. And, a lot of people ask that question. And, a common thing to ask a person to do is, well, maybe you should go back to driving school. But the science doesn't show that that helps very much. And that's
Right.
because, hey, we don't forget how to drive. We know how to make an entrance on a highway and, we know what a stop sign is. So what's happening that makes us less safe a little bit as we get older? And it turns out it's these changes in brain information processing. As people get older, their visual speed slows down. Their attention actually kind of shrinks, so that as you're looking ahead, as you're doing when you're driving, you're focused on the car ahead of you, your attention and your ability to notice things in your peripheral vision goes down dramatically. And it turns out the most common kind of car crash for an older driver is what's called an intersection crash. The older driver enters the intersection and they get T-boned. And why did they get T-boned? Well, the driver says, I never saw him coming. But he was coming, right? It's just that because your attention is not so great in your peripheral vision, you didn't see him coming into the intersection, so you entered it. So how can we make that better with brain training? Well, brainHQ's got a lot of exercises that focus on visual speed and attention, and one of the better known ones is called double decision. This was actually an exercise that was invented by some scientists funded by the NIH, Carleen Ball and Dan Runker. And in this exercise, you're looking at a computer screen, and something appears in the center of your vision. It's a little car or a little truck. And you have to pay very careful attention to see which one it is, because they're kind of confusing. So while all your attention is focused in the center of your vision, we also show a little road sign off in your peripheral vision. And you have to say, oh, did that occur at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock or 10 o'clock? Now, if that image is up on the screen for 10 seconds, well, anyone can do it. You just look around and, oh, that one's a truck and there's the sign over there at 10 o'clock. But the genius of the exercise is, well, what if you make it fast? What if it's only on the screen for a short click second? Well, often, even if you can tell what's in the center of your vision, you don't notice where that thing is in your peripheral vision. And if you can notice, well, we're a little bit devilish. We make it a little bit faster the next time because we want to train your brain to be faster and more accurate. And what's been shown through this work, again, led by Carleen and Dan, is that, hey, doing this exercise, first of all, we can dramatically improve visual speed and attention. We can make peripheral speed and attention in older adults almost as fast as it is in 30 and 40-year-olds. And then the effect of that is people are safer on the road. In a very large NIH-funded study, they showed about a 48% reduction in at-fault car crashes. Essentially, people noticed that thing out of the corner of their vision, and they did what they knew how to do, step on the brake, change a lane, all the good driving skills that we have, but their brain gave them the fast, accurate information they needed to take the right driving maneuver, and then they stayed safer as a result. And I think that shows us in general how rewiring the brain, which sounds kind of abstract, how sharpening those kinds of cognitive skills can lead to better real-world performance. And in fact, that's what all of us want, right? We want a brain that lasts as long as our body. We've had so many health advances. We know our bodies are going to keep on going, but we want our brains to keep on going while we're at it, so we can do all the things we wanted to do in our lives.
Absolutely. Well, and along those lines, I know that you've done a lot of work with different organizations like employers and the military, and I think you even had a big fan in Tom Brady who was using your exercises to make sure he could stay.
Won quite a lot of Super Bowls.
Super Bowls, exactly. Keep winning those Super Bowls, hopefully next year. But also for individuals, I mean, this is really kind of ageless, right? I don't know if you do a lot of work with, younger adults, but certainly I think, as you said, over the age of, our 20s, we're looking to make sure that we're staying healthy from the neck up as well as from the neck down. And then for our older parents, we're also wanting to engage them. So, this really works, right?
Sometimes people ask me, Sherri, they say, hey, how old should I be before I start brain training? And I always come back and ask them the same question. Well, how old should you be when you start having a physical exercise program to take care of your body? Right?
Yep.
Do you wait till you're 65?
No.
Do you wait till you're obese and sedentary? No, of course not, right? You have an exercise program throughout your life. When you're a kid, you run around and play tag. And when you're a young person, maybe you're on a soccer team. And you're middle-aged like me, you join a gym.
Right.
Now you get older and you do things like swims and steps. But have it throughout your life. And cognitive training, we're at the cusp of that revolution now, where we're now understanding that, hey, brain health is a lifelong activity. We're coming out of really the dark ages where we thought, well, the brain's just going going to take care of itself. You come back from the war with a traumatic brain injury, get back to work, buddy, right?
Right.
You have mental illness and your brain doesn't work, well, too bad. You get older, just sit around and watch TV, you'll be fine. We're
Right.
moving out of that age, right?
Thankfully.
Thankfully. We're now thinking about taking care of our brain at every age. And I think what the future is going to have is it's going to have us, thinking about brain health with brain training, but then all the other things you mentioned as well. How does nutrition affect our brain health? How does physical exercise affect our brain health? How does sleep and stress and social connections all affect our brain health? And we're going to be thinking about those things as helping us to build a better body, but also to build a better brain. And hey, whether we're 3 years old or 25 years old, or whether we're living in the city or the country, whether we have a PhD or whether we didn't finish high school, all those things we're nonetheless going to think of, how as a society can we build these habits and empower people to take care of their brains as well as we take care of their bodies? Because, that's how we're going to win the fight against Alzheimer's over time, right?
Yeah.
Drugs have had a really hard time, as you and all of your listeners know. And, it's my view and the view of a lot of other scientists in the field that we're going to, as we start to think about taking care of our brains and keeping them healthy throughout our life, that's the way that we're really going to, really push down Alzheimer's rates and ensure that most of us have that chance at a full, healthy life.
Absolutely. Kind of take it back under our own control with some of these lifestyle, changes that we can make. We've got just a couple more questions for you, Henry.
Sure.
One is, we hear so much about gamification of health, right? There's all this talk about game, and I guess it's about using kind of a video game style or making things entertaining. Now, your exercises are very entertaining, but what are your thoughts on this whole gamification of health? Does it really help engage people more in better, healthier behaviors?
I think so first of all, let me say I love playing video games. I play a lot of video games. I mentioned I play Wordle, and I do that because my wife got into it, but I play, games on the Xbox with my daughter, and, they're a blast. I love them. I think there are good things to be drawn from that when we think about health applications like brain training, but there are also lessons that aren't so helpful. So when I think about the good parts that we can learn from games, games have a really strong sense of progress. They have a really strong sense of gradual mastery, right? You always feel like, hey, I'm learning something, I'm getting better, I'm at a new plateau of performance, and I see that reflected in the game, right? So a good game will do that for you. And I think brain training programs and health applications need to learn from that, right? They shouldn't look like they were built by, Dr. Frankenstein in a lab, right? They should have that humanistic sense of immediate progress and mastery and all these kinds of things. But I do think this whole field took a little bit of a wrong turn that it's only now recovering from, because I think, starting, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, people are like, oh, well, games are fun and people play a lot of games. So why don't we just make all of our apps into games? Then people will play them as much as they play Wordle or Pac-Man or Overwatch or what have you.
Right.
And that was just a wrong turn for the whole field. And the reason for that is a motivational reason. If you want a person to do a brain training program, but you make it into a game, in the end, they're going to be doing it for the reasons that make it fun, not necessarily for the reasons that, improve their brain performance. And that can end up meaning that they don't use the program in such a way that it improves their brain performance.
Right.
If all you're doing is, focused on earning more stars, unless you're very careful, they're going to use the program in such a way to earn stars rather than improve their brain performance, is the case.
Right.
So I think it's really, really important to remember, hey, we're building brain training programs, learning from the best of video games about showing people progress, even if it's with stars, but not have that distract or take away from the underlying reason that people are there. They're there to improve their brain health.
Right. And that's why you kind of an exercise, which is why people do go to the gym, right? We don't go to the gym to win something. We go to the gym to work out.
And brain training programs can still be fun and engaging, right? I mean, brainHQ is. I talk to people all the time who tell me that.
Yeah.
And that means we've drawn the best part from games in that sense. But at the same time, we're not trying to build games exactly. And for people who want to go play games, well, they should go play games. There's a lot of great games on the market.
Right, exactly. Well, Henry, I could talk to you all day. I'm a nerd for neuroscientists like yourself, as you know. So I just enjoy these conversations so much. Tell my listeners where we can find out more about brainHQ. And actually, I think you also offer a few free exercises that people can try out, right?
Anyone who wants to try out what you and I have been talking about today, just go to www.brainhq.com. You can register for free. When you register, you're going to get a free exercise every day. Try it out. out, see if you like it. And if you like it, we hope you'll join us as a subscriber. It's pretty inexpensive, about $8 a month when people buy a year, and really the best proven way in science right now to improve your brain health. So we're excited
Yeah.
to be kind of leading this revolution in all the ways we've talked about.
Well, I was going to say to people, does your Peloton only cost $8 a month? Does your gym membership only cost? Come on, folks, right? Let's get on board with this. This is great stuff. Well, Henry, again, thank you so much. Great to talk to you and learn so much from you about what's going on with our brains and how we can make them better.
Thanks for having me on, Sherri. It's a pleasure.
So I'm really excited to introduce my next guest, Mark Evin of Jintronix. And Mark and I actually recently met on a Clubhouse chat, and I got a chance to hear him talk a little bit about what he's doing. And I thought it was so fascinating. Wanted to make sure I brought that to you, our listeners. So Mark, it's really terrific to have you here today. Welcome to Caregiving Club on Air.
Awesome. It's great to meet you, Sherri. It's great to be here today as well.
And I also wanted to ask you, where are we talking to you from?
You are reaching me today in the old port of Montreal, Quebec.
Oh, wonderful. We've had a couple of Canadians, so we love our Canadian guests, and it's just wonderful to have you on today. So,
Awesome.
Mark, I thought what we could do is really just start with you giving our listeners an overview of what Jintronix is all about.
Okay, great. So Jintronix has been around for about 10 years. We've been developing interactive, gamified technology for therapeutic exercise, for rehabilitation and healthy aging. And our technology is now used in hundreds of rehabilitation facilities around the world. And our whole approach to the work we do comes from a few insights around some of the biological and psychological elements of wellness and the power of imagination and games to bring the body and mind together in a really enriching and mutually reinforcing way. So, a way that they can benefit each other. So everything we do, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, and that's kind of how you and I really connected with each other, because I think I was talking about that biopsychosocial framework that we use in gerontology, and you were like, yeah, that's what we're doing. So it was really great to hear that.
Right on. And I've actually been communicating that. I've sort of worked hard over the last week to internalize some of those insights and bring them to my team and kind of open up some vistas in terms of what we do and to go a little bit deeper in that. So for sure. So everything we do is really about combining video games, exercise, and wellness. So and our programs, like I mentioned, they're used in rehab settings, but also by people in their own homes on their own computers. So our newest program is an app that you can actually download onto your laptop or iPad. You don't need any extra equipment to use it. And it's basically a whole set of video game experiences that track your movements, that are themed around world travel experiences, but also really focused on the evidence-based exercises for strength and balance, for fall prevention. So you could be skiing the snowy slopes of the Italian Alps while doing key exercises for static standing balance and lower body strength. You could be cycling through the beautiful views of the Tour de France while working on dynamic standing balance, knee raises, and upper body strength. Or you could be climbing the lush rock formations of Thailand while working on sidestepping and reaching. And these are just a few of examples of what we've done. And we're building more. And while you're doing all this, we're tracking your performance. You can see your progress, see your personal best, and all sorts of things like that. So.
Well, and I love it. Yeah, you gave me a little entry into Jintronix, and I was able to test out a couple of things. And I think what's really wonderful too is that, we think about this obviously for older adults, and you mentioned rehabilitation. Certainly, it's so instrumental in that, but also just in kind of prevention, right? For things like falls and improving your balance and all that. And I think because you adjust it to the user's what their ability is. And so it can be very easy. I know that Carol, who's an occupational therapist who was on Clubhouse with us, talked about it. She's very fit. She did the skiing and she said it really, it was really a workout for her. So you can kind of adjust that. And I think that's what's really so great. One of the things I wanted to make sure you mentioned, because my mom happens to be an avid gardener, and she's got this beautiful English garden that she's, kept all these years, but you have gardening also as part of this, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, everything that we developed, it takes a lot of work to develop a piece of interactive content, and we try to really make sure that everything we go into, everything we dive into in a really deep way. And before we do that, we need to make sure we're going in the right direction. So we are constantly in dialogue with the people who are using this program, learning about them. What is it that you love? What gets you out of bed in the morning? Deep questions about, what drives them in their day. And then we really try to play these up in these experiences that we're creating.
Well, I'm definitely going to get my mom involved in the gardening one that we've got. So, tell us a little bit, because one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on today is September, when this episode is actually going to be posted, is Healthy Aging Month. And, we talk so much about the gamification of health. That's kind of the terminology, right? And what you've really done is you've combined this wonderful entertainment, as you were mentioning, of video games with healthy behaviors. But tell us a little bit more about what is the science and what's behind this gamification of health. Why is it good for people to think that way?
Yeah, so the science, it starts with a lot of progress in the science of rehabilitation in general. So over the last maybe 15, 20, 25 years, we have discovered through numerous clinical studies that what we previously thought were hard limits to how much functional improvement was possible were actually not hard limits at all. So there's significantly more distance that you can go in your functional progress. And these insights started in the area of neuroplasticity. So, how the brain is able to change itself. But now we're also seeing the same principle at work in a broader context, so around healthy aging in general. So just, what we previously thought were limits are now surmountable, but it requires a lot of hard work. It's a tremendous commitment. And another key element of this is that there are really good exercise protocols for strength, for balance, for fall prevention out there. For example, there's the Otago fall prevention program that's been shown to reduce falls by 35%. If I recall, Tai Chi, moving for better balance, has been shown to reduce falls by about 55% in the studies. But the problem, though, is that these protocols only work when you do the program, and that is what we found to be the main gap. So so just reviewing, there's the ability to change itself. There's the exercises out there that are the tools that if you do them, you really will see the change. But we're also seeing studies that show that are very clear that the adherence to people doing these exercises are about 15% among the adult population in general. So, and a lot of the qualitative studies that are coming out are showing that the key barriers are around the boredom, the discomfort, the repetitiveness. So the conclusion that comes from all this is that people can't force themselves to do exercise against their will, and that goes for any form of wellness habit. And that is the real tricky thing. So in order to have a successful exercise or wellness habit, your whole person needs to be fully on board at every stage of the process. So, for example, there's a part of you, the voice in your head, so to speak, that says, okay, I'm going to get up and do some exercise now. But then there's the voice in your head that while you're in the middle of doing the exercise, the voice that might be saying, okay, keep it going. Or they might be saying, all right, I'm so bored. When is this going to be over? Right.
That's probably that's what my brain's usually saying during exercise.
Right. And so when it comes to these decisions around self-care, wellness, exercise, all these voices in your head, all these different parts of you, these different aspects, they need to be fully on board with what you're doing. So, for example, just imagine intuitively what happens when you're exercising and the voice in your head, instead of saying, I'm so bored, when is this over? The voice is saying, I got to get through this course. I got to beat my high score. Or, I want to get to the top of this mountain so I could see the beautiful view and see the gorgeous fireworks celebrating my achievements. How do you expect the person to perform in that state of mind? And the evidence is clear that the outcomes are much, much better. So what we've done is we took the best, most clinically validated, scientifically backed exercises for healthy aging, and we turned them into video game experiencing, leveraging motion sensing, creating engaging, exciting, fun, motivating. These are positive experiences that resonate. And the idea is that they click with the whole person. And that is why video games are so powerful, because it creates a context for your body and your mind to get all on board towards the same goal, towards the same positive outcome.
Well, and what I love about this is that it really, for me, when I hear you talk, it brings in that psychology of, that biopsychosocial framework. And the psychology part being that very often when we have to do exercising, whether it's because we're trying to, have some weight loss or weight management, or even for rehabilitation, it kind of reinforces that you have a problem and you're trying to fix or correct a problem. Whereas when you bring the entertainment value of the gamification in, all of a sudden it takes you outside of that problem. And now you're immersed in kind of this, like you said, you're these worlds where you're climbing a mountain or, you're skiing the Alps or whatever. And you really start to forget. And it reminds me, I did a study years and years ago, because I've been around way too long, and I was working with Nintendo, and we actually did a study around, we would provide video game carts for children who are getting chemotherapy treatment. And of course, that can be very painful. And what it did is when they could play the games while they were getting the treatment, it totally took their mind off the pain that they may have been experiencing. And it also empowered them because they were superheroes. They were in the game and they were winning. So I just love that you've blended this. And, if you have any thoughts on that or what you've seen with the people who have used your program so far, do you believe that that's really what they're getting out of this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have one of our star users, a person who's been working with us, an older adult from Pennsylvania. We get on Zoom calls with her. She's very opinionated. She uses the program. She gives us a lot of feedback. And she is someone who does not exercise whatsoever, nothing, no how. Only on our system does she exercise. And for her, it's all about achieving the goals that were created by the context of the game itself. So for her, it's all about getting out of her default mode with her body and her pain, and kind of going to a place where she can really engage in challenges that are not really accessible to her without something that really takes her to another place. So
Right.
Absolutely.
And again, I love that you're doing, you've got your traditional sports or, those kind of, really active activities. But then the gardening part, I really go back to that because I think you're really thinking about your audience and what's going to bring them into this. Now, I know you've had great success in working with rehabilitation centers and, some skilled nursing communities and assisted living and all that, but you're also now doing a lot for the home. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing there for people who are at home, who are maybe a little bit more sedentary, and we just want to get them up and moving.
Right. So that was a big thing that we've been working on over the last couple of years. And it's really driven by some really big advances in technology that allows us to do this. So now what we do is part of our interactivity is motion sensing. So being able to perform an exercise and have your movements be translated into an avatar on the screen performing a similar movement. And then that's basically how the connection works between your exercise and the games. And the big technological advancement is the ability to do high-end, good fidelity motion sensing, but without needing any extra equipment whatsoever. So it's a software-only solution. You can put it on your laptop. You can put it on your iPad. You don't need any extra equipment to use it. And then we've developed this self-paced program. So there's an assessment. You do a self-assessment on the program to strength test. The program is calibrated to your level of difficulty, and it's really designed to go deep. It's designed to be there and be part of your wellness routine for the long term. So right now we're calling it Jin Home, and it's going to have a new name soon as well. So I should mention that. But
Sure.
that's the new thing that we're bringing out to the world now. At this time, we're offering it free of charge, but by invitation only. So if people want to get on board and try out the program, give feedback, be part of the journey, there's definitely encourage people to reach out to us, and we'll definitely send you an invite, and you can get up and running with the program in like 15 minutes or less. You're going to be off to the races.
Well, and what I love, because I think that's the test that you sent me, or you got me into the system that way to use it at home. And what I really enjoyed is because, again, a lot of your audience is going to be older adults who may not be as digitally savvy. There's a video tutorial that's really easy to follow, and it explains this is what you're going to see on the screen. Be prepared to do this. So it doesn't just automatically, like so many tech entrepreneurs feel they miss that step. They don't really understand that they have to help guide their audience. So I really love that you guys really took the time to walk people through what's going to happen and, make it really easy for people.
Absolutely. And actually, when we were contemplating doing this, creating this program for home, a self-paced program that people can install and get up and running on their own, that was our biggest question mark. Can we do this? Is this feasible? Are people ready for this, for something like this? And so when we were developing with a bit of uncertainty, because you don't know until you built it, we really were obsessed with the question about usability, clarity, and making sure that everyone who's using the program could feel like they know what's going on, they know where they're at, they feel oriented, they know what's coming up. There's no big surprises and so forth. So every step of the way, and we really wanted this program to be, have that experience for someone if they can just surf the net, check the news on their favorite website, then they should be able to use this program with that similar level of ease. That's what we were going for.
Well, I think what you're doing is just really fantastic. And again, we kind of bonded over the whole wellness discussion that we were having in Clubhouse, because it really is so much more than just kind of taking care of our bodies. It's that whole immersion and going into the social side, the psychological side. And I think we had a really great discussion around focusing more on wellness and less on kind of that health, where we're trying to fix a problem. This is more about just a lifestyle.
Right.
Thing that we can embrace. So, well, so how can our listeners find you, and would they be able to participate in this new home version that you're kind of test piloting right now?
So, yeah. So if you're listening to this program, which I guess you are because you're hearing this, you are personally invited to participate in this program. And to reach out to us, there's a website, home.jintronix.com. And Sherri, I'm not sure if you could put that in your show notes that people could link to it.
Sure, we will. We'll put it up on the screen for our video version, and then we'll have it on our episode guide page as well, linked to you guys.
Awesome. And I'll also put my email address there. You can reach out to us through the website or through me, and you'll get a nice response and an invitation. And it's just a few steps to get up and running, and you'll be trying the cutting edge of wellness technology. So we'll be excited to have you on board.
Well, Mark, it's just been a delight talking to you. Just very excited to see what you're doing, and we're going to be, watching you closely with all the great things that you're bringing out. But thank you again for being on the podcast today and telling us about Jintronix.
It was so great to be here. Thank you very much, Sherri.
Sure. So I want to welcome Cara Sumpton, who is the co-founder and lead designer for Apparelmark, who is working with Joe and Bella on their latest line of clothing. So Cara, welcome.
Hi. So nice to be here with you today. Thank you
It's
for
great to talk to you too. We love your background. It's absolutely perfect for fashion design. I wanted you to first of all start with telling us a little bit about your background, because you've really worked for some really, illustrious, well-known brands in the fashion world. So tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay, yeah. So I'm based in Vancouver, Canada, and I got my start here working for Lululemon Athletica. I was there for 8 years and designed for every category. So from men's to ladies yoga to running and all the different things. After that, I started Apparelmark and have been here for 6 years. And it's a company that me and my partner founded. And we help brands with their design, development, production. And we work with like small brand startups like Joe and Bella, but we sometimes work with bigger brands because we're based in Vancouver and there's a lot of great brands here, such as Aritzia. I think most people know that brand. And Arc'teryx. So we're very lucky to have a lot of contacts and to get a lot of opportunity. So I've really had my hands in a lot of different things over the past 15 years or so.
Well, that sounds fantastic. And I'm sure it's beneficial to companies like Joe and Bella to have that kind of, diverse background that you've got where you're still working on other areas of fashion. But tell me what interested you in working with the Joe and Bella team on the adaptive clothing line.
Well, first of all, it's a completely underserviced market. So I love that, like being able to really be the pioneers in the space. And I happen to have a grandmother and grandfather with dementia. And so I've personally experienced the hardships of dressing them and having my family be support for them. So it's like a topic that really resonates with me personally, but I'm able to bring in all the knowledge from working with, modern athletic brands and be able to bring that into, a new marketplace that really hasn't even seen simple things like stretch fabrics or just, some common, like softer, easy to care for garments. So just being able to be that person to bring it together is really exciting.
Well, and I know you work closely with, the engineers because, of course, with adaptive clothing, there's, certain placements of zippers and other things. So how does that process work when you're coming in with more of that fashion, that design aesthetic, but then needing it to do certain things and have certain function?
Yeah, it comes down to my checklist and it's very easy to remember. Fabric, fit, function, features, and fun. So when we're designing something, those are really like, okay, is it excellent in all of these categories? And a great design always is. And so it always starts with fabric and fit, and those are the key pillars, and everything else starts to fall into place. But that's the process of design. It can be broken down, and it's just really about hitting all those elements and thinking about what it's like in your customer's shoes with that garment in mind.
Yeah. And, that's really interesting when you say kind of being in your customer's shoes. So with this audience who, maybe they struggle a little bit with arthritis, they don't have the flexibility to put things on as easily or the dexterity, with the buttons and all that. How do you test that out with certain people, or how do you design for that?
We bring in live models, and so we design it and we do all the tech packs for it, and we have a lot of different models, and we had to source completely new models for Joe and Bella because as you get older, your body shape changes, so we couldn't use the same exact models that we use. So we don't necessarily use someone who is above 80, but we try to bring in someone who's closer, and so we can get more accurate representation of like the fit. So yeah, we really get in there. We had people putting on incontinence products. I'm not sure if you know the terminologies, and filling them. And so we had people getting wet in the fitting.
Right. See how it works, right?
Literally getting your feet wet is like literally how it went down. Yeah.
Right. Well, and you mentioned the fun, fit, fashion, and all those things. But I understand when I was talking to Jimmy and Ben that for you, fabric is really, really important. Tell me about that when it comes to your fashion designs.
Okay, yeah. So as a designer, it's kind of like your first piece. So if you can think of like a restaurant and a chef, like why is the food good? It's probably because the ingredients are good. So it's the same thing. So when you're a designer, it's like you are all about your fabric because that's your what you're working with. So having a good fabric dictates the fit, dictates the function. It's the first on the list. So being in this industry for as long as I have and working with these top brands, if we have an amazing fabric library. So to be able to bring that into this new market space is very exciting. So, we get really excited about fabric and how this fabric can lend to like new design opportunities for this market.
Well, and you mentioned up front that this has been a market, people who, again, have certain, limitations maybe when they're getting dressed, that's really been overlooked and not really been addressed. So, when it comes to fashion, how do you see this market? I mean, do you see this as something like it's going to be typical that you have different themes for seasons, fall versus spring fashion, all that? How is that going to work with this particular audience?
For us, we're just trying to think of like we have like a pillar. So we have our like stylish, adaptable, and comfortable. And so we're kind of just building a collection to fit all those pillars. So what's stylish for me is different for what's stylish of someone who's 50, 60, 70, 80. So it's very different what you see as being stylish. So it has to be a certain level of polish for this market. And it has to be a little bit more classic. So that's what stylish is, for this market. Also, when it comes to comfort, what's comfort for me is different for them. Like younger kids are wearing Lululemon all day, and my grandmother wouldn't wear that. So what's comfortable for her is different. So we have to consider that. And
right.
Then for active, it's like some days, depending on what how you are in your health, some days you're clearer than others, and so some days you can dress yourself, and some days you can't. And so you have to consider that. Flexibility with having assisted dressing or being able to get ready yourself, and it has to be able to do both. So, yeah.
Well, and we're going to have some of the beautiful designs that you've created for Joe and Bella. And I think, for anybody who doesn't know about this market, your designs are so far ahead of where, the look of the clothing has been. It's really not been very, very fashionable, let's say. And it really, I looked at the pants and I'm like, oh, I want a pair of those. They're just beautiful. But, in going forward, do you feel like there is more attention now to older adults? I mean, I thought it was really interesting recently that Jane Fonda has partnered up with H&M to do an H&M move, kind of based off her old, aerobics videos and that kind of persona that she had. We know Anna Wintour, who's the former editor, I guess, of Vogue. I think she's still chairman or something, is 72 years old. So is fashion starting to say it's okay to be older and still be fashionable?
I hope so. I mean, I just want to be inspired about how I look and show up until, the moment I'm, still here. So when I look, like as a designer, I'm always looking at, Karl Lagerfeld. There's some designers that have super long careers and they were just as cool and stylish. Anna Wintour is a great example. So we are seeing that so much more. And I think also as women are progressing more in business and in career, they're showing up more at, older. And so you're still aspiring, more and more. So I think that fashion will become even more ageless as we go on. I mean, certainly I'm an advocate for that.
I know, I'm excited about it too. So, just to kind of wrap this up for our listeners, a lot of our listeners might be, younger people who have older parents or grandparents. What would be the last, the kind of final message that you would give to them about looking at these kinds of designs and really understanding what's out there?
I think you'd want to look for things that are just ultimately very comfortable and have even a little bit of stretch to it. When I was looking at what was available, just even the stretch factor is not out there. So until Joe and Bella is big, you might have to, go to Lululemon or go to something that offers a bit more flexibility, because I feel like they'll be most comfortable in that. Plus, it's easy to care for. Like, you don't want to worry. No one wants to pull out an iron anymore, especially for this type of product. So just easy care, comfort, and things that people feel comfortable in, like classic items. That's something I would be an advocate to buy.
Yes. Anything that doesn't require an iron, I love. Well, it's been a delight talking to you today. Thank you so much for sharing with us your design and fashion eye behind Joe and Bella's new line.
Yay. Thanks for inviting me. This was so much fun. It was nice to
So for our Well Home Design News, we're going to focus, as I mentioned, on falls prevention. And officially, Falls Prevention Week is September 18th through the 24th. And I wanted to just share with you a few statistics that I think are really important for family caregivers to know, and also some really great resources. So first of all, according to the CDC, about 1 in 4 older Americans falls every year. That's about 36 million adults. And we have over 3 million emergency room visits based on these falls. And unfortunately, up to about 29,000 deaths of older adults every year from a fall. Now, we know that a lot of the falls occur at home. And in fact, in the recent headlines, as many of you probably know, Ivana Trump fell at home and unfortunately died from that fall in her home. We also saw Ben Affleck, the actor, who was getting married to J-Lo. So they were having their wedding. And his mother actually tripped and needed to be taken to the emergency room. And thankfully, she's okay. But I think, again, we see more and more of these headlines now of our older adults that we need to pay attention to. And one of the things that we do know is in the home, 80% of falls occur in the bathroom. And this is why there's a lot of really great information about how to adapt that bathroom to make it more safe. I'm going to have a couple article links on the episode guide page. So I have one on just overall dementia-friendly design for the home, and I have another one that's on more of the falls risk. And, just in terms of dementia and Alzheimer's, if you're interested in this, you should also check out our season 1, episode 1, our very first podcast episode featured George Netzer, who is the CEO of Safely You. And Safely You has really great solutions for preventing falls in the home, specifically for those people who have Alzheimer's or dementia. Now, the other resources that are really great for you when it comes to fall risk are the National Council on Aging. So the National Council on Aging actually puts together a toolkit, and they work with the thousands and thousands of senior centers across the country. So during Falls Prevention Week, again, September 18th through the 24th, they're going to be holding a lot of different classes and informational workshops and other things. And one of the great tools that they have on their website, we're going to have that link on our episode guide page, is a falls risk assessment. It's called Falls Free Checkup. But it's an online tool that, whether it's your parent or your in-laws or your grandparent or even for yourself, if you want to go and take that falls risk checkup, it gives you an assessment of what your falls risk potential might be. It's a really great tool, and you should really check that out. I also want to just do a shout out to the Fall Prevention Center for Excellence, which is part of the USC Leonard Davis School of Gerontology, my alma mater. But they also do a lot of really great checklists and information for keeping older adults safe at home and specifically about falls risk. So with that, now we're going to go into our Me Time Monday wellness hack and how the color orange is associated with gratitude and how gratitude helps us live longer, healthier, and happier. Welcome to the Me Time Monday wellness hack. This episode, we focus on our year of living colorfully and how orange is connected to gratitude, health, and happiness. World Gratitude Day is September 21st. It is a day of reflection and thanks. Many write letters or reach out to friends and family to express their gratitude for love and friendship. Gratitude is a type of superfood for the soul. Being grateful and practicing gratitude has shown to be our social glue. It keeps us kind, it makes us empathetic and optimistic, by amplifying the good in life. It also rescues us from toxic feelings and strengthens our bonds with family, friends, and those we love. Gratitude is often associated with the color orange. Orange is also most associated with social connectivity. It represents vibrancy, energy, and fun, but also being thoughtful and considerate. Some feel the social connectivity of orange is tied to the American history when we celebrated Thanksgiving harvest with family and friends in the fall, when leaves had turned to orange and copper colors. Orange is also a color associated with heroes and a sense of mastery, as well as cheerfulness, being friendly, and being confident. Because orange is when we go from fall to winter, it is seen as a color associated with transitions and adaptability. It is a color most often used to help a person recover from disappointments, a wounded heart, or a blow to one's pride. Many color therapists recommend color breathing, which can be very energizing. If you are feeling depressed, try breathing in orange to a count of 7 So think of your favorite orange object or scene pulling warmth into your body. Then breathing out to 7 in the complementary color of blue, which is associated with cleansing and calm. Orange is part of the warm tones of the color spectrum because it is the color most associated with the sun and with fire, both of which bring us warmth. Orange, such as coral and orange jade, were used in healing lungs and to increase energy levels and came to signify renewal. The meaning of the color orange is stimulating, vibrant, and flamboyant. While made up of red and yellow, it carries less aggression and fierceness than the color red due to its combination with the calming color of yellow. While orange is a common color associated with summer and the hot sun, it is also often associated with being a main color of harvest and autumn due to the changing color of the leaves and the pumpkins. Orange foods and surroundings stimulate the appetite. Orange is a common color found in citrus fruit and is often associated with vitamin C and a healthy diet. Foods with carotenoids, which have an orange or yellow gold color, decrease inflammation in the body and help prevent cancer because they are high in antioxidants. They keep our immune system strong, support vision health, and keep our skin healthy. Orange even stimulates the thyroid to boost metabolism. But it is also the color most associated with fall harvest foods, including pumpkins and yams, which also bring good health. We hope you enjoyed this explanation of the color orange during our Me Time Monday Wellness Hack. Each episode of our Caregiving Club on-air podcast features a new Me Time Monday Wellness Hack, and you can also check out more great wellness articles from my upcoming book, Me Time Monday, The Weekly Wellness Edit for a Wonderful Life. I'm Sherri Snelling, and I wish you all to take care and stay well. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Caregiving Club on Air. Please listen to us on Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, and other listening channels. You can also check out all the resources and article links on our episode guide page at caregivingclub.com. Hit the podcast tab at the top, and you can email us with your questions or comments at podcast@caregivingclub.com. In honor of Happy International Podcast Day on September 30th, we just want to say thank you to all of our loyal podcast listeners. We're grateful for you. So stay well and take care.